Welcome to Talking Books TV. I'm your host, Michelle Van de Pass. Today I'm very pleased to welcome Ken Ungerecht, author of God Theories, and you can find more at godtheories.com. Ken has written a very interesting and controversial book about God theories. Ken, with everything written about God and the universe, tell me why you felt it was important for you to write this book.
Well, I wrote this book because I think it's important to bring a greater degree of logic and reason into our search for spiritual understanding. I think that these are important ingredients that just too often missing from the mix that we use to try and gain that understanding. And I think that it would be helpful if we had a little more of it in there.
You know, people talk about being believers that you just have to have faith. And you're saying to bring logic and reason and science into what really is faith-based living. Can the two of those come together?
I think ultimately they will come together, yes. For one thing, with faith, if everything's based on faith, we know that, a lot of the beliefs that result from that are mutually exclusive. They can't all possibly be true. So, I have a great respect for tradition, and I certainly think that, we're talking about a complexity here that's going to take us beyond logic and reason, but I think that we can use logic and reason to sort of lay a groundwork, if you will.
So when you say they can't all mutually be true, are you talking about different religious beliefs, or are you talking about things within the Bible? Give me an example.
Well, different religious beliefs. Let's just take the idea of reincarnation, and which is put forth by some religions and is very strongly opposed by other religions. So one of those must be true. Okay, I mean, those are mutually exclusive ideas. They can't both be true. So that's one example.
In the United States of America, most people would classify them loosely as Christians, I think. And reincarnation is not something traditionally in a Christian belief. So you would have Christians saying, well, it's not mutually exclusive because we just don't believe in reincarnation. It doesn't exist. What do you say to the people that just, block out that portion of a religious belief?
Well, that I think is one of the problems with that we have, in trying to gain a greater spiritual understanding, is that many people just simply are very reluctant to examine anything that they haven't accepted. And I think it's a slow process, but I think that ultimately truth is going to be, what prevails. And if reincarnation is a part of how things actually do work, then ultimately that idea is the one that will prevail. And if it's not, then it won't. I believe that it is, obviously, but they can't. Ultimately, one of them is going to come forth as truth.
Ken, you got quite a bit of science and logic and reasoning in the book, and one of the things that was kind of difficult for me to grasp my brain around was your figure of 10,000 times a trillion, whatever it was, about being born. Can you explain that whole concept to me, please?
We're talking some big numbers here, aren't we?
We are.
Yes. Well, the science that I use in the book, I would say it's very sound, and it makes very careful use of sound scientific principles. The science actually applies to the reasons things happen in our world, and there, of course, are billions and billions and billions of things that do happen in our world every day, and there are billions and billions and billions of reasons why these things happen. But every reason that causes something to happen has to be placed into one of two mutually exclusive categories. And these are by chance or not by chance. In other words, these two categories are all-inclusive in that every reason that causes something to happen has to be placed into one of them but they're mutually exclusive in that they can't be in both of them, obviously. So as an example of that, let's suppose that we just have 1 million people, and they go out every week and they buy a ticket, and at the end of the week there's a drawing and one of them wins $1 million. Well, in this case, the effect is winning the $1 million. And there are two easily identifiable fundamental causes. One of them is not by chance, that's buying the ticket, that's obviously a conscious choice. And the other one is by chance, and that's just simply the random, happening of getting the ticket drawn. So this is an example of a not by chance and a by chance cause producing a particular effect. But let's suppose that the same person wins a lottery like this 2 weeks in a row. Well, now we're talking about odds that are much less. Now we're talking about odds that are like 1 in a trillion, that something like that would happen. No, it could happen. It's not impossible. It's not absurd to think that it could happen, but it's very unlikely. And it may start raising some questions, particularly amongst the people that aren't winning, or that didn't win. It certainly would be something that would probably make the front page of every newspaper in the world. But it's not beyond possibility that the same person could win 2 weeks in a row. But now let's suppose that the same person wins 3 weeks in a row. Well, now we're talking about something that's, very, very unlikely. It's probably not going to happen in a million of our universal lifetimes. So now I think if that were to happen, we would have, a little more interest in what's going on here. The law might, perk their head up and take a look at what's going on here. Because now we would probably almost certainly have, two causes that are not by chance. One of them is not by chance, buying the ticket, and the other one is not by chance, and that somebody's messing with the drawing, okay? So, where does the point of absurdity come in a situation like this when we're talking about chance? I would say, the chance of somebody winning the lottery 3 weeks in a row is absurd. But some people might not, okay? We can argue that one. But let's say the same person wins 4 weeks in a row, or 5, or 6, or 10, or 100. Now we are talking something that's not going to happen by chance. The same person is not going to win the $1 million lottery like this 100 weeks in a row. But in my book, basically, the logic that I apply is very similar to this, in that how we come into this world is most of us think it's a not by chance cause and a by chance cause. The not by chance cause being that two people can that have the requisite qualifications, they can get together and decide to create a physical body. That would be a choice, a conscious choice. And the by chance aspect of that is just happened to be me that was born, right? I was extremely lucky. But when you calculate the odds of that actually happening, the odds of it being you as opposed to some other hypothetical person are zillions and zillions and times less, really, than even somebody winning the lottery, let's say 1 billion times in a row. Okay, and I just think it's absurd to think that somebody winning $1 million lottery 1 billion weeks in a row is absurd. But if that's absurd, then if the odds of us ever being born by chance alone are beyond absurdity. Now, the atheist would have you believe in this absurdity, that this is how, in fact, we come into this world. And they can believe that if they want, but I think that as more and more people really, really stop to think about how crazy it is to think that we came into this world by chance, I think that the atheists are going to have fewer and fewer takers. So that is a very quick summary of some of the logic that I put forth in the book.
Something else that you bring up in the book that I think are going to raise some heckles is the idea that we bring religion back into the classroom.
The big debate today is between the intelligent designers and the Darwinian evolutionists. Basically, that's where all the noise is coming from as far as our spiritual talk is concerned. And of course, the intelligent designers want to bring religion into the classroom, and the Darwinian evolutionists say, no, that does not belong there. And of course, our Constitution doesn't really permit a particular religion to be brought into the classroom. But I think, the intelligent designers have a point, okay, I think, because classical evolution, essentially, if it doesn't deny the existence of God, it very strongly encourages, I think, just because of the way it's taught, that there is no God. And I think that it would be to the benefit of our children if we had an open discussion around this issue. I'd like to see the intelligent designers put their ideas into the classroom in opposition to evolution or the Darwinian evolutionists, because I think that both of them are both very right and they're both very wrong.
Yeah, you're going to have the argument that that's really the place for churches, meetup groups, coffee clutches, book clubs, that it's not the place in the schools, and I'm sure you've heard that.
Yeah, exactly, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. But like I said, the intelligent designers make a point when they say that evolution is taught, and they don't believe in evolution. Okay, it's not a part of their religion, so they do have a valid point.
I'd like to leave with something that really struck me from the book. You have a whole list of things that you say involves being conscious or bringing consciousness to this conversation and what consciousness is. And what struck me was that at the end of the list you added love. And that's not something I've really thought about before, that love is consciousness. I really enjoyed seeing that on the list. Tell me, let's leave with your thoughts about love and consciousness.
Well, as I talk about in the book, I think that consciousness is something that's inherent in everything. I think it's a fundamental property of everything. Okay, I think that our universe, everything in it, and everything in it is consciousness. But my fundamental belief is that life is an incredible gift from a goddess, and that our fundamental purpose in that life is to learn how to accept it and to learn to make it fun. I think that we have a source of love from that consciousness, from God, from Goddess, whatever your concept of that is, that's available to us to help us do that.
Ken, it's been a pleasure having you at Talking Books TV today. I'm going to hold up the book again. The book is called God Theories. You can find out more at godtheories.com. And I'll look forward to further discussions. Thanks for being on the show today, Ken.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it. It's been fun.